I would like to greet everyone for a delightful Friday afternoon. I am pleased to welcome you to the info session, Introduction to the Green Infrastructure Initiative. This initiative is a form of synchronization between the challenge of developing urban areas and a commitment to address environmental problems. The project aims to strengthen the Indonesian government's approach to identify and develop investment projects under the coordination of the Ministry of National Development Planning and the Committee for the Accelerations of Priority Infrastructure Delivery under the Coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Investment, the Coordinating Ministry of Economic Affairs, and in close coordinations with crucial infrastructure financing institutions. Meanwhile, on the German side, it is coordinated by German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, KfW Development Bank, and Deutsche Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, or GIZ. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my delight to be your master of ceremony today. My name is Indita from the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. We highly appreciate for taking time to join us today. Today's event will surely give us such constructive information about the Green Infrastructure Initiative, partnership between Indonesia and other parties of relevant sectors. We would highly encourage all of you to join this program. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, allow me to greet our speakers, Mr. Arsyad Rashid, Chairman of Indonesia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Jan Lundveld, Managing Director of the German Indonesian Chamber of Industry and Commerce, or EKONID, Dr. Muhammad Saleh Nugrahadi, Assistant Deputy for Watershed Management and Natural Resource Conservation, Coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Investment, Mr. Oliver Hoppe, Counselor of Development Cooperation, German Embassy in Jakarta. Distinguished guests and participants, I have a few housekeeping notes to make before we begin. First, please rename yourself with format name _ institutions. Second, participants are obliged to mute their microphone during the event. Third, so you have questions, you can type your questions in the chat box by using the format name _ institutions _ questions. Your questions will then be answered during the Q&A session. Bapak dan Ibu sekalian memiliki pertanyaan, mohon jika ada pertanyaan ditulis dalam chat box dengan menggunakan format nama _ institusi _ pertanyaan. Apabila Bapak dan Ibu mempunyai pertanyaan dalam bahasa Indonesia, silahkan dituliskan di kolom chat dan akan kami bantu untuk terjemahkan. And the last one, please note that this webinar is being recorded. Distinguished guests and participants, now without any further ado, please welcome Mr. Arsyad Rashid from Kadin Indonesia to give the welcoming remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greeting to Your Honor, Ms. Dr. M. Saleh Nugrahadi, the Assistant Deputy for Watershed Management and Natural Resources Conservation, Coordinating Minister for Maritime Affairs and Investment. And also greeting Mr. Oliver Hoppe, Counselor of Development Cooperation, Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany to the Republic of Indonesia. Mr. Jan Lundveld, Managing Director of EKONID. Mr. Burkhard Hinz, KfW Banker Group, Germany. And distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Indonesia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and also personally, it is an honor and delight for me to welcome you to the introduction to Green Infrastructure Initiative. Green Infrastructure Initiative is a partnership between the government of the Federal Republic of Germany and the Republic of Indonesia to support the development in Indonesia, especially in the fields of urban water and wastewater management, urban solid waste management, and also urban public transport through 2.5 billion euro loan funding launched back in 2016. Indonesia and Germany have been in partnership for a very long time. It is once again proven by this occasion that even though during the global pandemic of COVID-19, the two countries are very enthusiastic to strengthen the partnership. In the past 5 years, Germany has become the 16th largest investor to Indonesia by investing worth over $1 billion based on data from the Minister of Investment of the Republic of Indonesia. And in terms of trade, Germany is 13th largest trading partner with a total trade over $5.4 billion. That's back in 2020. And that's a surplus of $560 million for Germany. Indonesia is also the partner of Hannover Messe, actually, in 2020's digital edition. It is one of the largest prestigious industrial exhibition and conference in the world, in which both head of states attended and delivered strong commitment to strengthen the partnership of both countries in their respective virtual remarks. Talking about the focus sectors of the Green Infrastructure Initiative, it is undeniable that Indonesia has a lot of work and learning to do to catch up with Germany. Take, for example, the urban water management. Despite the abundant water resources, only as few as around 20% of total Indonesian population have the access to pipe water supply, whereas the rest have to supply themselves with other sources such as wells and rivers, and the most which are below acceptable hygiene standard. All in all, as in 2018, only slightly over 61% of the total household have access to actually decent water supply. In the sector of waste management, many municipalities in Indonesia have started to show struggles of dealing with their waste, basically. And the data shows that major cities in Indonesia produce over 10 million tons of solid waste, with the increase of 2 to 4% actually annually. With this global pandemic of COVID-19, it is more than ever, we need to map out a strategic waste management roadmap, including the necessary technologies to process the waste correctly to avoid further environmental and health issues, and better yet, provide additional economic advantages. Needless to say, urban transport also has always been an issue for developing cities in Indonesia. Traffic congestion, increasing fuel consumption that leads increasing emission, long travel time that hinders productivity are also few of the most common urban transportation issues that cost the economy for Indonesia over $5 billion annually. That's based on the data from the World Bank recent study. Ladies and gentlemen, Bapak-bapak and Ibu, Kadin Indonesia would like to express its highest appreciation for both the government of Indonesia and also Germany for concluding a very important agreement of this Green Infrastructure Initiative to help address above-mentioned long-standing issues in Indonesia. It is therefore, as the umbrella organization of the businesses and business association in Indonesia, Kadin would like to strongly encourage relevant Indonesian business players to take part in this project by joining available open tenders. Kadin stands ready to provide any necessary support and assistance to ensure the success of this Green Infrastructure Initiative program. With that, I would like to say thank you, and thank you to all participants. And again, I would like, let's make this successful. And salam sehat, stay safe, and stay healthy. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Arshad, for the remarkable speech. Ladies and gentlemen, following our next agenda, now please welcome Mr. Jan Rundveld, Managing Director of the German-Indonesian Chamber of Industry and Commerce.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ibu Indah. Selamat sore. Yeah, good morning to everybody who is joining us from Germany or Europe. A very warm welcome also from my side to this event. And let me please also welcome especially Pa Asad for his opening remarks, Dr. Saleh from the Coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs, Mr. Hoppe from the German Ministry of Development Cooperation, and Mr. Hinz, the Director for Urban Mobility and Urban Infrastructure of the KfW. And yeah, of course, most important, I would like to welcome all of you participants from Indonesia, from Germany, but also from other European countries to participate in this info session. Let me briefly introduce EKONID, which is the German-Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Indonesia, of course. We are part of a worldwide network of German chambers abroad, and our main functions is to represent the interests of our members, but also to promote trade and investment between Germany and our host countries. We are already active in Indonesia for almost 100 years now, being founded here in 1924. EKONID has a number of areas that we are focusing over a longer period of time to develop markets and networks with the aim to create business opportunities. Since 20 years, for example, we are active in the field of renewable energies, since 15 years in the field of energy efficiency, and about 7-8 years now in the field of waste management. Always financing is one of the main issues or bottlenecks, as you know. Therefore, I'm very happy to be able to say that with the Green Infrastructure Initiative, actually a lot of money is available. The German government, through the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development and the German Development Bank KfW, have allocated, as far as it said, 2.5 billion euro, which is approximately 44 trillion rupiah, to finance investment of physical infrastructure in 4 provinces: West, Central, and East Java, and Bali. The investment should focus on solid waste management, water and wastewater, as well as public transport. Mr. Burkhard Hinz from the KfW will introduce the details to us later. So now it's a matter for you, ladies and gentlemen, to find the right partners and companies and create the required consortia to participate in the upcoming project tenders and ultimately get to this money. Supporting your company in that process is the role of CARIN and EKONID within this initiative. Today's info session is the first out of 4 info sessions that are planned and that we are organized together. The 3 other info sessions will be conducted sometimes next year in preparation to upcoming and concrete tenders. The first tender of 6 pre-feasibility studies has been published already. My colleague, Mr. Blocks, will provide further information later in his presentation. And Mr. Anthony Nicolas from CARIN Indonesia will introduce and explain in more details the support of CARIN and EKONID for the establishment of the required consortia. Please let me conclude by highlighting Germany's commitment to Indonesia, to our long-standing partnership. I know Germany is far away and does not always look that we are very well aware of what is happening in Indonesia, and that other countries seem to be more active recently. But heading an organization that is already almost 100 years active in this wonderful country and knowing a bit about the numerous projects that GIZ and KfW are implementing here every year on behalf of our government, I can tell you Germany is dedicated to our partnership and friendship. I hope the Green Infrastructure Initiative financing scheme will make a significant contribution to some of Indonesia's most pressing issues of overflooding landfills, insufficient water infrastructure, and better and more sustainable public transport solutions that are needed in every urban center of this country. In closing, I also would like to thank our colleagues from Development Cooperation for giving us and CARIN the possibility to join this initiative. I'm looking forward to work with CARIN in this program, and I would like to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining today's info session. I hope you can make use of this initiative and our support And I wish you success in the preparation of your bids. Thank you very much, and back to Ibu Indita. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ronfeld, for the warm greetings. And now I would like to invite Dr. Muhammad Saleh Nugraha Hadi, Assistant Deputy for Watershed Management and Natural Resource Conservation, Coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Investment, to give the opening statement. Mr. Saleh, you are welcome to the screen.
Thank you, Chair. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon for everyone, and guten Tag. Herr Oliver Hopper, Development Counselor, German Embassy in Jakarta, and Mr. Ashad Rashid, Chairman of Kadin Indonesia, Herr Jan Ronfeld, Managing Director, German-Indonesia Chamber of Industry and Commerce, or EKONID, Herr Hughard Hinz, Director, Mobility and Urban Infrastructure, East Asia and Pacific, KfW, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, selamat siang. Indonesia is the fourth most populous country in the world and one of the fastest growing emerging markets. This rapid growth has increased living standards, but has also seen environmental degradation and increased vulnerability to the impact of climate change. Indonesia ratified the Paris Agreement, committing to making finance flow consistent with the pathway toward low carbon and climate resilient development. Year 2020 was a challenge for all due to global pandemic COVID-19, and we have been striving for any aspect of life, including tackling of climate change. We have to make any progress for advancing the work, and Indonesia has submitted the long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilient 2090, and also national update determined contributions to IPCC in order to face the next COP26 that will be held in Glasgow, Scotland. Through LCRR 2050, Indonesia will increase ambition on greenhouse gases reductions by achieving the peaking of national greenhouse gas emissions in 2030, reaching 540 million ton carbon dioxide by 2050, and further exploring opportunity to rapidly progress toward net zero emissions in 2060 or sooner. Indonesia now plans to expand its green infrastructure to achieve economic and environmental benefit, as green infrastructure is a network providing the ingredients for solving urban and climatic challenge by building with nature. Green infrastructure, green technology, and green energy are so closely intertwined. We understand that in many ASEAN countries, green infrastructure is not yet a top priority considering its long-term return on investment. The launch of Green Infrastructure Initiative shows that green infrastructure is a priority for Indonesia. However, there is huge gap in terms of infrastructure financing, let alone green infrastructure finance that support Indonesia's low carbon and sustainable development. The Low Carbon Development Initiative, or LCDI, estimates that Indonesia's low carbon pathway require a total amount of low carbon development investment that would average 21.9 billion per year US dollar for the period 2020 to 2024, which is about 1.7 of GDP. Accordingly, required LCDI investment represents about 2.3% of GDP through 2045. Supporting Indonesia's endeavor in sustainable reductions of carbon emissions, Indonesia-German Green Infrastructure Initiative, or GII. GII is part of Indonesia-German Climate Initiative agreed in the framework of Indonesia-German bilateral government negotiations on the 1st October 2019 in Berlin. GII is assisting relevant stakeholders to prepare preliminary feasibility studies for potential bankable environment and/or climate-relevant infrastructure project in Indonesia to be financed and implemented by KfW. The process is by increasing capacities of responsible actors at national and subnational level, province, district, and cities, enabling them to select and prioritize infrastructure projects for the Indonesian-German Green Infrastructure Initiative using general sector-specific and gender-oriented criteria. Here, the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs and Investment support the initiative to strengthen internal process of government institution for identifying, planning, and preparing projects that have the potential to be improved and coordinated more effectively. And as a result, I hope in near future, we could see and facilitate qualified project proposals entering preliminary feasibility studies. This project proposal will represent GII short-term and long-term objective to support Indonesia's endeavor in sustainable reduction of carbon emission and accelerating climate action. So in this action, I would also like to thank GIZ for collaborating to hold this important event. And I wish you have a very fruitful meeting. I thank you very much and vielen Dank and viel Erfolg. Dankeschön.
Thank you, Mr. Saleh, for the opening statements. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now coming to our next speaker. Please welcome Mr. Oliver Hoppe, Counselor of Development Cooperation, German Embassy in Jakarta.
Yeah, thank you very much. Selamat siang, good morning and good afternoon to everyone. And especially to you, Mr. President Ashad Rashid of KADIN, the Indonesian Chamber of Industry and Commerce. And also to you, Managing Director Jan Bönfeld of EKONID, the Indonesian-German Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and to Director Saleh Nugraha Hadi of the Coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Investments. Dear distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, it is with profound pleasure that I can address you on behalf of the German Embassy to Jakarta for the opening of this session on the Indonesian-German Green Infrastructure Initiative. Dear distinguished speakers, let me echo your remarkable words by saying, for the German Embassy and also for the German government, the initiative is currently one of the most ambitious bilateral cooperation endeavors between our two countries. With this initiative, we jointly seek to find greener solutions for urban infrastructure in Indonesia and the challenges which Mr. Ashad Rashid highlighted so insightfully in his address in the areas of public transport, waste and water management. We understand that all of these areas are highly important for Indonesia's goals to continuously improve environmental management, as well as to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the country. The German Embassy highly appreciates the strong ownership of a coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs and Investments and all involved partner institutions of the initiative. And please allow me to take this opportunity to congratulate Indonesia for its decision to become carbon neutral by latest 2016. Germany is proud to support Indonesia in reaching this ambitious goal through the projects and programs of our long-standing and successful bilateral cooperation. The Green Infrastructure Initiative is a very important endeavor to tackle the challenges of climate change in Indonesia, and it's a great example of our partnership between our two countries. We very much appreciate the fact that KADIN and EKONID agreed to jointly host this virtual session and to share information on the initiative with their networks of companies. It is very impressive that the initiative has made substantial progress during the last couple of months, even though Indonesia and Germany are still in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are very glad to see that the initiative is now ready to present itself to the wider public, and particularly to the private sector. It is our expectation that representatives from the companies here today will participate in making the Green Infrastructure Initiative a bright success. As I understand, KADIN and EKONID stand ready to receive and answer all questions related to the possible involvement of private companies. And we hope that many companies will take part in the various public procurement processes during the coming years. On behalf of the German Embassy, I wish everyone a successful and insightful session in this virtual format, and I hope that we will be able to meet in person in the near future. Until then, stay safe. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Hopper, for the excellent speech. Distinguished guests and participants, we are now coming to the session, Business Opportunities under Green Infrastructure Initiative. I would like to invite Mr. Burkhard Hinz, Director Mobility and Urban Infrastructure, East Asia and Pacific, KfW, to come to the screen.
Well, good morning and good afternoon. Very big thanks for the invitation and to the organizers of this session. And particularly, of course, I also like to pass my greetings to Dr. Saleh from the CMMI, my dear friends from the chamber, particularly, of course, also Pak Aschat and Herr Rönnfeld, and of course also Oliver Hopper from the German Embassy. Next slide, please. So I work with KfW, as you know, but probably the abbreviation of KfW doesn't mean a lot to everyone in this round, which I fully understand. So it means actually so that's why I say just a very few words about KfW as such. It's a German promotional bank. It's KfW was established already in 1948, and this abbreviation actually stands for Bank for Reconstruction. So, and 1948, we all can very much understand this was about the reconstruction of Germany, and some of you might have heard about the Marshall Plan 8. And KfW was actually the financial institution in Germany to channel these funds. The owners are the federal government and the states. And in the meantime, KfW, from a company which was, I think, 6 or 8 employees at the very beginning, has grown significantly to now more than 7,000 employees. And if you look at the balance sheet total, it's about 550 billion euros. And just to give you an idea, the World Bank has about the same size. So, and we work actually a little bit similar to the World Bank, although coming to the next slide, we have KfW is focusing on the domestic market, promoting SMEs, but also municipalities in Germany to a very large extent. And we have a small subsidiary focusing on venture capital. But what I'm standing here for is a very right column. That's about the development bank, promoting developing countries, but also emerging economies like the one in Indonesia. And we have another subsidiary called IPEX Bank. This is commercial financing, where we do finance rather big projects. For example, renewable energy projects, power supply, but can be also aircrafts or, let's say, cruise ships. If you look at the figures, so the total commitment last year, which was a special year, one should say, because of COVID, was in the range of 135 billion euros. The normal commitment is in the range of about 80 to 85 billion euros. And you can see that on the international side, last year, commitments were in the range of 12.4 billion euros. Of course, also with Indonesia being very significant and the most important or crucial partner in Southeast Asia. The overall objective of KfW also very clearly is, as we are not competing with private commercial banks, I will not go into many details, however, is promoting environmental and climate issues, climate projects from addressing climate change. And we consider ourselves as the #1 financing institution on a global scale when it comes to these particular challenges. Next one, please. Right, we have as KfW, I like to say we have that saying from Oscar Wilde, the Irish poet, who said, "Economists know the price of everything and the value of nothing." So what I just said is I hope KfW fits more in the value category, although we are a bank. where the reputation is, let's say, generally so-so, but as a promotional bank, we have our own agenda. And this is also due to our guiding principles, which we follow in terms of the development bank now. This is what applies also to our cooperation with Indonesia. So ownership is key. So we see ourselves just as a kind of honest broker, but more working in the back. We facilitate everything, we provide financing, but we are, as such as KfW, we are not the ones implementing the projects. This is always with our Indonesian partners. And because, of course, the overall objective is, as written here, is a sustainability. We talk about costly investments usually. As has been said already, the Green Infrastructure Initiative has an overall envelope of in the range of 2.5 billion euros. So this is big money what we talk about. And of course, fair enough that the investments which are being financed then should be done in a sustainable way. And sustainability can only be achieved if the partner is in the driver's seat and takes full responsibility for the project as such. Of course, we align to the partner country's national development strategy, but as I mentioned, we're there from the very beginning of the project, from the preparation time, all the way through to operation and maintenance, construction, and so on. Next one, please. Right, what's happening in Indonesia? So in Indonesia, KfW, who works on behalf of the German government, in very close cooperation, of course, with Mr. Hopper from the German embassy and colleagues. So we focus on 3 areas of cooperation. And it's about education, sustainable growth, it's environment and natural resources, but particularly climate protection and also energy. Energy, of course, clear focus on renewables and energy efficiency. Next, please. Sorry, comes now another exactly. And here we have the sustainable urban development, water, wastewater, solid waste, plus public transport and mobility. And this is exactly what will be covered by the Green Infrastructure Initiative. And the future looks bright, to say the least. All right, next, please. Well, lots of the Green Infrastructure Initiative as such has been already clearly mentioned. So it's about climate change, clear focus on adaptation and mitigation. And here the overall objective is to save 4 million tons of CO2 emissions per year. And for this, KfW will provide loans in the range of up to 2.5 billion euros over a period of 5 years. That was the idea. With COVID might stress us a little bit in this regards, but we are still looking at the 2.5 billion. And the German government, here by the embassy, the Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, is also prepared to provide grant funding, which is particularly being used for preparation of projects, say financing of feasibility studies of projects, but also when it comes to capacity building to support our partners while preparing and implementing projects. The focus, I mentioned already, urban transport has been said before, solid waste management, wastewater and water supply. And the regions also have been mentioned already. We talk about Java and as a whole and Bali. Next, please. Right. So we have where do the business steps in here, or where are the business opportunities in terms of the Green Infrastructure Initiative? You know the standard project cycle, which goes from the preparation to the implementation of the project, or say the construction of the investment, and comes the operation. And for each of these phases, of course, we need support from consulting companies. So from the very beginning, we talk about pre-feasibility studies, could be scoping study. Then comes the feasibility study as such together. And that's something I mentioned already, that KfW is, let's say, proud to be one of the very big financing institutions when it comes to environmental and climate projects, climate-related projects. So the environmental and social impact assessment, of course, is always key to us. So we do the feasibility study, environmental social impact assessment. Then comes, of course, the project design, the tendering. We also get support from tender agents. And then, of course, comes the project management, the supervision of the project, where we need resident engineers on site, and comes the operation and maintenance. So this is a whole package over the entire project cycle. Support from consulting companies, but of course, as we talk about physical infrastructure, it also applies to suppliers, contractors, and also then later service providers. So suppliers, contractors get in, of course, when it comes to the civil works and construction activities as such, and but also supply of machines, equipments, other goods, whatever might be needed for the project. Comes the operation time, and I mentioned already also capacity building. We know that our investments shall be sustainable. So when I say our, I mean our Indonesian partners, but with support from KfW. So then comes the operation and maintenance support, maybe also after sales services, which might be also carried out by international companies. Next, please. How do we work? So we have, yeah, please go ahead. Sorry for the movie. Okay, so we have certain principles which are probably, as I understand, are not new to everyone and or very well known. So number one, transparency, of course. I can assure you that here and there I have the feeling that others make the rules and the Germans are the ones to stick to them. This, I can assure you, also applies here. So when it comes to tenders, I guarantee you full transparency, fairness, non-discrimination, economic efficiency. As one issue I mentioned, we'll say a few words more. And of course, sustainability related to the environmental standard and KfW being a public bank, also being very transparent in the way we work. Right, transparency, key, so everything will be published. I will tell you later where. Fairness, I can assure you we have also very sensitive compliance division at KfW, so we really look into this issue, and rules are rules, so easy. Deadline is deadline. After that is dead, there's nothing else coming. So stick to the rules, all fine, and we might get partners, hopefully. Right, non-discrimination goes without saying. There's that one exception. We have a very small list, I should say, and we stick to the UN and EU sanctions lists. Yeah, so this would be then embargoed, but I guess no one in this round thinks that he will be addressed by this. Okay, economic efficiency. We have generally, we go for the two envelope procedures. So we have a different technical and financial offer, and the price is not the only decisive factor. As Germans, as you might know, and the made in Germany, we're very proud of, also means that we know quality comes for quantity, or let's say for price. Next one, please. Right, this is where you find all the information. I understand that the publication, or this short presentation, sorry, will be made public. So we have on the KfW website, of course, you will find our guidelines in all details. If you have the time, please look at it. When it comes to tendering, I can, from my long experience at KfW, I can assure you, I was always recommending to companies, please employ a retired bookkeeper who is counting to the cent every euro which he's looking at, and make sure that all documents, all required documents, are submitted on time. Yeah, and then you're in the game. Right, and then of course also whatever we do is published on the website of Germany Trade and Invest. You find the website here, and but I'm also quite sure you're familiar with this. Next one, please. Right, I want to just, at the very end, I want to give you 3 examples of projects which are coming up, some in the very near future and with related tenders, some at a later stage. So, water supply Bosusukas, a project where we have signed already the respective contracts with the Indonesian government a while ago. The consultant services have been already tendered, and we expect the the decision soon. What will be tendered soon in a couple of months or so are the different packages for a water treatment plant, various pipes and transmission pipes, which is about supply and installation, of course, and reservoirs, plus consultant services, as I mentioned, which have been tendered already. So this is just one idea. This is the #1 project of the Green Infrastructure Initiative, a water supply project in Central Java. Next one, please. Another project is a sustainable urban mobility plan. Here we first talk about consultant services. We talk about the region of Surabaya and urban mobility plan. So looking at efficient, integrated, climate-friendly local public transport system, and what are the maybe what could be future investments to come up with a round picture in this regard. I would say a project and an initiative by the Indonesian government, which is looking far ahead and also taking into account, of course, also the various challenges of climate change. And here we have the tender coming out also in the very near future. The terms of reference we have agreed upon already with our Indonesian friends. Again, we have the 2 stages, 2 envelopes procedure. So the study comes first. What is special here that in this study, we will include already 2 full feasibility studies. So because we do this in order to save time when it comes to the implementation of projects, which shall be identified, and we understand that quite a number of projects might be identified as part of this sustainable urban mobility plan. And so we do the plan. The consultant company will be asked to carry out this mobility plan, do the feasibility for in this regard, plus have at a later stage as an option also the 2 feasibility studies for future investment projects. Next one, please. And then I also just like to give you another example also from Surabaya. This is a little bit down it's still a way to go. However, a project which has been listed already in the Green Book, you know what that means. And we understand that contract signing shall be done in early 2022. So let's say first or latest second quarter, I hope first quarter next year. We can go ahead with this. Here we talk about a light railway system in Surabaya, a project which is has a financial volume of 230 million euros for Surabaya, building up to 120 kilometers of additional rail plus stations and so on and so on. This is the first phase of a project. There's very likely more to come. And just to give you another example of typical physical infrastructure where we look for the full package, the detailed tenders, I can't tell you now, but please follow also on German Trade and Germany Trade and Invest, and you get the full picture. And I was also very pleased to hear from Mr. Rönnfeld that there will be more info sessions coming. And of course, I'm very pleased to give you updates on various projects and tenders also in this forum. All right. And finally, next one, please. I'd like to thank everyone for your kind attention, and you find more details. We have a colleague in our office in Jakarta, Olaf Görke, who would be ready to also answer all your questions, but you're of course also most welcome to contact either my colleague Mark Gall or myself here in Frankfurt, and we also will try our very best to answer your questions. Last word, of course, the information we get from Indonesia in terms of COVID is very serious, and I'm very sorry about this. However, I also understand that the situation is slightly improving, and you might know Leonard Cohen, this Canadian singer-songwriter. He said, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in, and I'm sure we see the light, and I also wish really and hope that you all stay healthy. And I hope for that I might be also able to visit Indonesia in the near future again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Hinz, for the wonderful keynote. Ladies and gentlemen, we have heard about how KfW plays its role in the Green Infrastructure Initiative. Now, before we proceed to our next speakers, allow me to introduce you to the Deutsche Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, or GIZ. So GIZ is a German development agency for international cooperation in various sectors and for sustainable development. GIZ is committed to help the German government to promote international education work and human capacity development. GIZ is a public benefit federal enterprise and a company under private law. Next, please. Together with partners from around the world, GIZ delivers excellent approach and methods to help reach its objective in international education, such as advisory service and project implementations, human capacity development, networking, management, logistics, almost everything. GIZ employs more than 24,000 employees worldwide with 3.3 billion euros business volume. GIZ operates in many fields across more than 120 countries and projects. To tell you more, I will now invite Mr. Stefan from the German-Indonesian Chamber of Industry and Commerce to present some information. Please, Mr. Stefan.
Yeah, thank you much, Indita. Yes, so we have heard from Mr. Hinz about the financial part of the financial assistance part of the GII. There's actually also a technical assistance component, which is taken care of by the GIZ. At present, the commission value stands at 4.4 million euros, but actually we expect it to be increased quite substantially. This will be decided later on, and I will come to this point in my presentation also. Next slide, please. Yeah, so maybe you've seen in the invitation that we have sent out and also maybe directly via the tender platform from GIZ. At present, there is one tender ongoing. So the ongoing tender from GIZ is taken from this technical assistance budget. Yeah? So this is also the link again to the announcement in the European Union tender platform. The good news is the original due date has been extended until 6th of September, 12 p.m. European Central Summer Time. Next slide, please. Most important information today. So since it's an ongoing tender and we have to consider European competition law, we cannot really answer questions regarding this tender, but of course we still want to announce some information which are actually important. So if you use this link here, you actually, especially for the non-German speakers, if you would use later on this link, you can get directly to the English website. The official link in the tender documents on the link mentioned from our side leads you to the German website, and they will find this project. GID in this case refers actually to the internal acronym from GIZ, which refers to the technical component of the project. Who can participate? It's actually international tender. Yeah, so there's no real limitation, which means the companies from Indonesia and Europe, but actually from all over the world can participate in this tender. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I've taken actually, it's a bit text heavy. The reason is since it's an ongoing tender and I don't want to share any wrong information to avoid issues. Yeah, so I've taken actually text here from the terms of a reference, which I want to share here and highlight a few points. So at present, the current tender foresees 6 pre-feasibility studies. So here GIZ is looking for a consultant or a consortium of companies that can take care of all 6 studies completely, so in parallel. So you cannot apply for just, for instance, the waste management or the water component. So the consortium has to apply for all 6 studies in parallel, and the time frame for the implementation or the conclusion of these first 6 studies is 1 year, starting most likely in November after contract signing. So there's 1 year. And I mentioned before that there's actually a chance to increase the commissioning value of this technical assistance component. This is currently under a discussion and this will be decided within the next couple of weeks or months, so before the tender conclusion. And there's a good chance that additional 12 studies will be tendered. Yeah, maybe not in those 4 provinces, but definitely close to these existing regions already. That means your proposals have to show that you actually have the capacities to handle all 18 studies. Yeah, so you have to prove that you have the resources and the experience to do so. Next slide, please. Yes, and another maybe interesting and maybe also challenging point is, at present, the locations or the projects have not been specified yet. This is still under discussion between GIZ and also here CMMI and the local, the provincial authorities. So the dossiers for the projects are currently under development. Yeah, so upon tender conclusion or tender announcement, the winning bidder will be handed over the project dossier. So only then you will find out what you actually is supposed to take care of. Yeah, but for sure it will comprise the 6 or the 3 sectors and 2 studies for each sector. This is the current status. Next slide, please. The importance of partnerships or consortium, we've already discussed this, yeah, and also later on, Nicolas von Kadin will introduce this later on. For the implementation in the requirements, the ones who are familiar with GIZ tenders know that already. So there's always the local partners, local experts included. Yeah. So you need eventually someone who can organize here the local experts. So in the TOR, it says 8 local experts plus maybe optional deputy team leader, but he can also be from the expert pool. Next slide, please. And yeah, actually a critical part are always the eligibility criteria, because if you're not fulfilling the eligibility criteria, your bids will not be considered. Yeah? The criteria in the tender documents are an annual turnover of 2 million. This actually refers to the combined turnover of the consortium. Yeah. So if you have 4 or 5 companies and a combined turnover of 2 million, you would have already achieved this criteria. Number of employees, at least 15. Good news actually is the commission value, because there are several references actually requested. Yeah. But actually good news is the commissioning value that's requested is actually only 50,000 euros, which is not much. We have seen tenders with a much higher requested commissioning value. And I think this is here very beneficial, especially for the Indonesian companies, because usually the references here from local tenders are rather small. So the 50,000 should be actually a value that also local companies can achieve with their reference, so they can contribute. And references in Indonesia are very, very important. When you look at the documents later on, you will see that you have to provide in your application, in your proposal, several references. The wording is, I have to admit, not ideal, but I assume it will be asked later on in the tender portal. It's a very important point that I maybe have missed. Yeah? When I said we cannot answer questions because it's ongoing tender, what you have to do later on is when you after you registered for the tender, you will then always be updated by a GIZ procurement team regarding the questions. Yeah? At present, the documents say that you have to present 6 reference projects covering the different, the 2 or 3 sectors: solid waste, water and wastewater, and urban public transport. And then the wording is and at least 6 reference projects. Yeah, and most likely we refer to, or the 6 projects can be from Indonesia, so it would be fine. But at present, the wording actually says that you have to provide 12 references. So this is something that should be addressed by the procurement portal from GIZ, so we cannot answer this question here. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's actually already my part, it looks like. Yeah, yeah. So I would like to hand over to Anthony then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stepan, for the presentation. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to continue the presentation about how KADIN and EKONID can help you in participating in this project. So basically the roles of KADIN and EKONID is to become the information dissemination and ongoing information outreach, in which we will help relevant stakeholders, both from Indonesia and Germany, but in a broader scope, we also have companies from Europe or any countries around the world, because there's no limitation, to participate, to gain any information regarding the project. So we will become your main contact point for any inquiries related to the GII and project tenders. EKONID will cover relevant stakeholders from European Union countries. KADIN will cover relevant stakeholders from Indonesia, and other international countries can reach either to KADIN or to EKONID. And then we can also provide and update you detailed information on GII and ongoing project tenders. We'll provide you project tenders neutral consultancy and also assistance, and we will help you in case you need business partners matchmaking. Next. First, for the main contact point, we will share later this presentation, but if you want to take a picture, you can contact to EKONID and to KADIN with this phone and also email. And next. And also for the updated information and ongoing tenders. Of course, we will also inform you that there is a website dedicated for the GII. It's gii.maritime.go.id. But we will also put it in our website, and also we will do email blast. So we hope you don't mind. For all registrants here, we will put your emails in the mailing list. So if there is new project tenders, we will disseminate the information to your emails. If later you find it disturbing, you can unsubscribe. And then we also put in our social network sites, LinkedIn, Instagram, and other relevant social media. And on a high importance matter, our team will reach out to relevant stakeholders through call. Next. So we can also help you by providing project tenders neutral consultancy and assistance. So as several times been repeated, KADIN and EKONID actually helping you to get the right and correct information as well as detailed information, but we will act as neutral agent. So we cannot help you, like providing any other information other than what is written in the project documents. So we will provide comprehensive information and requirements on the project tenders in case you have some difficulties in understanding the requirements, the concepts. We will help you explain that, and we will respond to any inquiries and questions related to the project tenders information. Next. This is maybe the most important part, in which for some case of the tender or the project tenders, perhaps will require you to have local partners, or for example, local company want to have, partners from other countries. We can help you to connect with relevant partners. So the process will be Indonesian companies should reach out to KADIN, Germany and also European Union companies should reach out to EKONID, and then we will connect you with relevant stakeholders. In case you will need cross-country partners, KADIN and EKONID will discuss internally to determine which partner will be the most relevant for you to reach out. Next. As for the business matching, again, later you will receive this presentation, but if you want to take a look at the link and also the QR code, you can scan it. I think the website is not online yet, but right after this occasion, my team will make the website online, so you can fill the form and then the criteria of partners that you're looking for, so we can assist you from there. And then next. Yep. So basically, that's how we can connect you. We will help you to understand every projects, because KADIN and EKONID stand committed to the GIZ and also other institutions to connect Indonesian and also other relevant players, so that this project can be successful and more quality of the project tenders can be joined by relevant business people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anthony and Mr. Stefan, for the constructive informations. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are now coming to the Q&A sessions. I will give the floor once again to Mr. Anthony and Mr. Stefan to lead the sessions while I'm reading some questions from our participants. So with the first ones, let me check first. It's from JP Wynald, PT Hijau Daun Energi. Our group of companies since 2016 is dedicated to collect waste cooking oils from restaurants, schools, malls, and others as well, as initiating a program to produce biodiesel from palm oil mill waste. Is this type of business eligible for this program support?
At present, actually the projects are not known yet. Yeah. So there are several criteria. So actually the projects that later on will be tendered by via or with the KfW funding will be decided by CMMI. Yeah. And they're in discussion with the provinces, and they will look at several components. It basically depends also, for instance, on the planning of the regional governments. Yeah. So most likely will focus on existing project ideas. Yeah. But nothing has been decided, at least not publicly. Yeah. So therefore, I very much encourage everyone to follow the announcements via the website of the GII later on, because every new information will be shared there. But at present, we actually cannot really say what kind of topics will be covered.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Stefan, for the explanations. And now we are coming to the next questions from Rai Harmschmidt from Econ Industries.
So again, for the list of projects, as Mr. Stefan mentioned, it will be updated periodically. But what we have the information now is that the project will cover waste, water management, urban solid waste management, and urban transport. Those are actually the big umbrella of the projects. But for the detail of the available open tenders, it will be updated regularly. That's actually our role will be. So when there's new project, we will contact the relevant players. And for now, the one that is open at the moment is the one Mr. Stefan has already mentioned. So that's what we can say for now for the projects.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anthony. Okay, so now we are proceeding to our next question is from Mr. Emil from Green Cycle. We are a consulting company working on waste to electricity with RDF or SRF plants. How could we become consultant partner of KfW?
Well, as part of a consortium member, of course, yeah. So the tenders, so we have now at present, as mentioned before, we have the ongoing tender from the GIZ. In the future, of course, there will also be more tenders from the KfW directly. So if you want to get engaged in the GII, the possibilities are via the tenders. Maybe you have to find consortium partners. This, of course, it depends on your company, but of course, we're then very much willing to help you finding someone. Then you have to reach out to us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Stefan. I think we can invite Mr. Hinz to come once again to the screen. Maybe Mr. Hinz, do you have something to add to our participants to respond to questions? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, just to add to what has been said already. So we have this steering committee, which is chaired by CMMI, and this is the forum, as Mr. Stefan already said, is where we will discuss project proposals. Basically, the project is on a government-to-government basis. So it will be CMMI to representing the Indonesian side together with Bappenas and various line ministries, of course, to look into the relevance of projects to be funded. RDF projects, for example, fit in very well. I should add that because of also to have certain economies of scale and look into efficiency, projects should have, let's say, a minimum financial volume. Although this is not being set as such, but it's obvious that, let's say, projects, I would say, for less than 10 million euros, sorry to give a rather big figure, is we would need to look twice, or let's say maybe here and there we can combine different projects in a certain region and come up with a kind of package. Then also smaller projects might be able for financing, but generally we look at bigger sizes of projects, and it's more public, I should say. So let me say a few words, just one more word about the waste sector. This to me is a typical example for a, let's say, triple win, what we have in many projects here, what we're looking at the Green Infrastructure Initiative. So we have, of course, one win is the people in the region, where the living conditions and economic growth will be improving. But it's also, let's say, if we look into the waste sector, we have one project which we implemented already. It's about solid waste, and we built, as KfW, we financed 4 solid waste disposal sites. And I learned by that time that these were the first 4 solid waste disposal sites in this state-of-the-art standard, which have been built in Indonesia. And of course, it took us quite some time to find construction companies in Indonesia who were able to construct and build these solid waste disposal sites. So, but now we set up this kind of know-how. So it's another win. Yeah, so it's not only good for the, let's say, the tourism in Bali when there is no plastic waste in the sea anymore, but it's also good for Indonesia because there will be that technology transfer taking place to Indonesian companies together with partners. And as Mr. Stefan already also said, is quite often it's very advisable to enter into joint ventures. Yeah, so from Indonesian partners, maybe together with international partners, that might be also quite helpful. But what we're looking at is, and we're really eager to scale up, for example, projects in the waste sector, yeah, which can be RDF, but which can be also, one can go even to incineration plants and many other ways of developing the sector, because we see this also as a key challenge, and it has a climate impact as well. And the third one to win from this initiative are the people on a global scale, because as we all know, climate relates everyone. Yeah, there's no borderline between Indonesia and let's say Papua or so. Yeah, when it comes to climate related challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hins, for the response. Shall we go to our next questions? It's come from Mr. Samuel from Norway. The Green Infrastructure Initiative will focus on sustainable urban development and public transport and mobility. The project in the Central Java is a water sector, while both project in Surabaya is more a public transport and mobility sector. For urban solid waste management sector, is this including a landfill design?
Well, if
I
I may
cannot
say,
answer,
the answer
but
is clear yes. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to our next questions. It comes from Ms. Marta. For the eligibility of the tender, can the minimum of annual turnover be counted altogether for the consortium, or should it be minimum each of the consortium member?
A combination. So you have to add then accordingly partners, and then combined you have to achieve the 2 million euros.
Okay, I hope it answers your question, Mrs. Marla. And I think this would be our last question, perhaps. We as a German company would like to bid as consultant for pre-feasibility studies. We do not fulfill one requirement regarding project experience in Indonesia. We have experience, for example, in Thailand and Vietnam. Are we allowed to submit our offer still? Thank you.
Yes, with partners, right? So we have to go back to the eligibility criteria. Yep. They clearly say you need a certain number of references in general, plus 6 Indonesia-specific references. So the ones from Thailand, for instance, they would definitely count for the first 6, but there are the second 6 references needed, the ones from Indonesia, which means in your case, you can participate if you find partners who can provide you the missing references. Yeah, this is very important. Without fulfilling the eligibility criteria, your tender cannot be accepted. Yeah, so all your work you would put into developing the proposal would be void, unfortunately. Yeah, so please make sure that before you start writing, that you actually fulfill the criteria. And we are very much willing to help, of course, finding partners. Yeah, we don't have much time, which means I think for the current tender from GIZ, we may have to find a more hands-on approach in finding partners, but I can only encourage you, please reach out to us. That also, of course, goes out to everyone else here in the round. Yeah, who needs a partner? Please inform us. Who knows? Maybe we can match here very quickly companies. Yeah, we may have to define some points some information we eventually need from your side. But just please reach out to us, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Stephens. And I think I'm having questions from PT Adikarya. If it's possible, may I ask for you to turn on your microphone and connect directly with our speakers to ask their question? Please, Mr. Arian.
Hello, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm
sorry.
woman. No,
I'm sorry.
Okay, I have a question for Mr. Hins from KWF regarding the urban mobilities project in Indonesia, in Surabaya. So you have stated that there will be a partnership opportunities for contractors and operation and maintenance as well. So our company, PT Adikarya Persero Tbk, or you can call it ADI, we have a very significant experience in transport infrastructure, especially for railway and urban transit. And we are a state-owned enterprise who established the LRT Jabodebek and the phase 2 of the MRT Jakarta. So and we actually are really committed to contribute to the sustainable transportation development in Indonesia. And I want to ask if you have the information about in which stage of the tender of this urban mobility projects in Surabaya currently, and if the preparation stage, for example, the pre feasibility study.
Yes, I just answer straight away. Yeah, as what I said is that I guess you talk about the railways project, the Surabaya railways project, as we have two rail projects coming up in Surabaya. One was that master plan, including feasibility studies, and the other one is that light railways project. So the status where we are there is we are all studies for the appraisal of the project, and the it's all have been already carried out. The project is already listed in the Green Book, and as you know, therefore this the readiness criteria and all this has been settled already. So we have this is done. We understand that the loan agreement, and we have also here funds for capacity building in the range of more than 5 million euros. So this will be all committed and put on paper and sealed, let's say early next year. And then very soon we will have the first tender out, which will be for the implementation consultant, the IC. So this is one tender which will be out. Very likely, or I'm quite sure, there will be a pre-qualification. It will be a public tender as always, on a EU-wide, following also the EU rules, because it will be quite significant. So this will be all out, and if you just follow the information which will be regularly provided by our Indonesian partners, of course, but also by, as will be also published on the GII website, Germany Trade and Invest. So this shall happen, I understand, probably mid next year. And then after this comes then, of course, as you know, then the implementation consultant works on the detailed design and quite another and many other papers, and with the result that then the tenders for construction supplies and so on will follow later.
Thank you very much, Mr.
And you're
Hinz.
most welcome to participate, of course.
Yeah, thank you. I think we are taking one last questions before our session ends, and as I'm receiving the questions, I will take Mr. Michael's question. How focused is it to urban areas? Does it also include waste management of palm oil mills?
It is. The initiative definitely has a focus on the urban centers. And what you can do is maybe considering whether your application is suitable for urban applications. Yeah, so we have to assume that industrial sites will not be part of it. Of course, we don't know yet, but let's assume. So what you can think of is whether your application is actually applicable also, for instance, for landfills. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stephens. And once again, thank you very much to Mr. Hinz, Mr. Anthony, Mr. Stefan for your time and for your constructive information. It was such a valuable information to all of us. And also for our participants, shall you have questions that hasn't been answered yet, please send us an email and we will compile it to you, and we will try our best to reply your questions. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are now coming to the end of the event. I would like to express my highest gratitude to our great speakers for delivering such valuable information. And thank you very much for our distinguished guests for attending despite of your busy schedule. We sincerely hope for everyone joining today can make good use of the Green Infrastructure Initiative and take part toward our sustainable developments. For more information, please visit gii.maritim.go.id to earn more information about this project. Today's presentation will also be published on that website. Meine Damen und Herren, für weitere Informationen besuchen Sie bitte gii.maritim.go.id, weitere Informationen zu erhalten. Die heutige Präsentation wird auch auf dieser Website veröffentlicht. Bapak Ibu peserta acara Info Session, untuk informasi lebih lanjut silakan kunjungi gii.maritim.go.id untuk mendapatkan informasi lebih lanjut tentang proyek ini. Presentasi hari ini juga akan dipublish di situs website tersebut. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Tschüss.
Bye-bye. Vielen Dank für die Teilnahme. Thank you very much.
Vielen Dank.
Vielen Dank. Storage, das ist interessant.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Ciao.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Vielen Dank.